thank you everyone for coming to this talk, to be honest, because I'm really happy to have a chance to visit London because I always saw images from here on my TV screensaver and was thinking oi mate, you need to start traveling. I'm that type of person who doesn't really know how to rest. So I will prefer to take a vacation just to uh, sort through my browser bookmarks or work on some open source library. So I also want to thank organizers for coming up with this idea because it's like the first time I see a conference in a cinema. So yeah, to be honest, I really want to finish my speech and just, I don't know, sit in this super comfortable chairs or sofas. I don't know how to call it correctly. So yeah, great venue, great place. So let's go. Yeah, okay, just a bit about myself. I live in Spain. My name is Vlad Dyachenko, technically in Madrid. So I work as a platform engineer at Cybergizer. Sometimes I want to call myself, a member of technical staff, sometimes a vibe coder. But my main goal is just to produce a lot of code of good quality and in large quantities. Yeah. And I started programming around a decade ago, to be honest. So I had a chance to work with Ruby, Elixir, Golang, Rust, so I can call myself a polyglot in terms of programming. Yeah. So just a stupid joke, I'm sorry. Only a couple of weeks ago I realized that prompt-driven development stands not only for prompt-driven development, but also for this guy's name. So if you have this association and you can stop hearing is PDD, also my accent should make it a bit funnier. So I completely understand you. Yeah, but let's start again with this meme. So sorry for all these memes. It helps me to feel like I'm still young, like Steve Buscemi. So fellow kids, yeah. So yeah. Anyway, today our goal is just to discuss this concept of prompt-driven development. So last quick note, I promise. Everything moves so fast that a month ago, maybe two, I almost thought about maybe canceling my speech because maybe just rewrite it a bit or fully, because with every new version of AI, it becomes more and more intelligent. So it looks like everyone knows everything about prompts nowadays. Maybe in the audience, everyone knows everything I will say. And also, I had thoughts that do prompts actually matter? Because it looks like Sonnet 4.5, I think the latest one, will be able to resolve a bug regardless of whether I say fix this bug or I will write a 10-liner prompt with all necessary context, it will do it. But at some point I was working on more complex issues and my imposter syndrome went away. So I understood again that prompts actually matter and I'm here. So yeah. So why are we discussing it right now? For developers, AI is like steroids. Yeah, actually a great quote. So the problem here is that steroids also have side effects: acne, libido change, hormonal imbalance, and so on. So to mitigate all these issues, we need to come up with some frameworks. I don't know, with some contexts, to monitor our conditions, let's say. So in case of developers, we need to use AI wisely. We want to squeeze AI context window till the last drop of usefulness. And let's go with problems. So we have a lot of problems with AI, and the first one is trust, in this movie. This is 2025. Where is it? Okay, Stack Overflow. Yeah, Stack Overflow developer survey, and as we can see, the problem here is that more developers are beginning to distrust AI because last year distrust has risen almost by 15% in just 1 year. So, what even more interesting that AI models became smarter. So distrust has risen, but AI models are smarter. I would say that there is no denying that prompt engineering is useful, but the problem here is that still a lot of seniors, even in my company, tend to ignore anything that is more smart than GPT 3.5. But guys, better prompts equals better LLM generated code. Garbage in, garbage out. So it's just how it works. Yeah, this table is not so presentation friendly, but generally speaking, it shows the percentage of problems that AI was able to solve on its first attempt. So just a second, here's a close-up. So as we can see, for most languages, it top-tier model can successfully solve only around 50%, more or less. So developers technically are justified to distrust AI. So there are also some studies that states that it's unsafe. AI not only creates bugs, but it also creates potential vulnerabilities. So on top of that, it's dangerous. Yeah. But let's go to how we got here. So is it really anything new about writing down what should be? Just a second. My job to write code. So I'm not a developer advocate. So I prefer to sit in the last row and just do some coding, not to speak. Yeah. So dyslexia happens. Yeah, so I wanted to say, is there something new about writing down the what should we do before actually implementing it? And technically, no. I hope everyone played Doom, so answer is no, because everything started with Doom and John Romero, who was the actual creator of Doom series. And they did a great idea. They did a press release before actually releasing the game. So I always think about this anecdote like when I want to start my personal project, because also this technique is used by Amazon to create product announcements. So whoever came with us with this app, it's a great idea, and it was a first encounter. So the second one, README-driven development by Tom Preston Werner. So we can say technically it has different names. It has name README-driven development, it has name documentation-driven development, it has name like tutorial-driven development, but in general, yep, I don't know what happened. Okay. Yeah, so in general, we can say that README-driven development could be considered like a subset or maybe a limited version of domain-driven development. So this concept was introduced by Tom Preston Werner, and actually it's a very smart guy. We can trust him because he created TOML, he created Gravatar, he created GitHub, he created a lot of great stuff, so we can trust him. Also Semver and Jekyll. Yeah. And it's cool to see because he still follows this pattern. Here's a screenshot of his first commits from Redwood. Yeah, Redwood GraphQL. And you have no idea until you've written like about your software what you're actually implementing. So to be honest, it sounds exactly like prompt-driven development. And let's move on. So technically, here could be some practices like TDD, BDD, extreme programming, but in general, all of them are just about writing something between actual code. So writing specs, writing requirements, maybe, I don't know, like specs, tests, requirements. But in different companies, we had these different practices and we called like different documents, such as implementation plan, product requirement files, software, I don't know, development documents, and different names. But the only problem with this type of documents, maybe you know this, that they have such qualities as write once or maybe read maybe once. Or the main problem with them is that they have this element of misunderstanding by people. So, yeah, by humans. So, what happens if we combine all these practices like pre-release driven development, README driven development, test driven development, and we will come up with something called prompt driven development. Yeah. So, just by adding some AI. So, initially, it was a conception that was proposed by this guy like around a year ago, but as it was with all great features like Lightbulb, for example, actually between 2 and 4 years before Thomas Edison, at least 3 people introduced the same idea and create the same patent. So I don't want to give all credit to one guy, but still, because many people came to the same conclusion, same pattern, just by calling it differently. So like prompt ops, prompting patterns, web engineering, I don't know, advanced prompting maybe. Yeah, but let's come back. So technically, what is PDD? Yeah, so it's just a structured methodology to leverage LLMs in software development cycles to produce a good quality code. So just a scalable, maintainable, high quality code. Just high level scheme. So the main idea here is that developer break down requirements into structured series of prompts. So that will guide LLMs through the code generation. And what's important is that PDD emphasizes code review. So technically, debugging and validation and like ensuring high quality result. So with human oversight, let's say. What's important? Let's say just an example. So how everything comes together. For example, we have product managers defined what our program should do. Clouds create specs. I'm sorry, like LLM create specs. But specs are reviewed and agreed upon. Tests are generated and reviewed. But why does it work? It's just an important question. Because product managers write text. Specs will be reviewed by everyone in our team. So SSD, some type of software design documents, or software design documents will be specs that technically just a living doc. So everything else will be derived from these specs. And what's important in this case, we will protect all our previous steps. So it's important, to be honest. And as a result, we will have prompts that describe the product that like should do in plain language that everyone on our team will understand. Yeah. So important thing is that we don't need like to limit ourselves. So we need to provide not only high quality prompt. We also need to provide user goals. We need to provide UI description. I don't know, UX flow description and testing plan. Here's the question. Should we actually, I don't know, forget about vibe coding? Maybe just ignore vibe coding? Should we be scared of it? So short answer is no, because vibe coding is still fine if the work is playful and the work is exploratory. So our goal is to use PDD only if the work is professional or educational. So we use PDDs if we need structured maintainable code, we are working in team environment, or we need to scale an application beyond, I don't know, beyond prototype, let's say. Yeah, so the next important part is prompting. Better prompt equals better LLM generated code. So context, specificity, and scope. Yeah, there are technically 3 values that are really important for if you want to considering like to tune your own prompting, let's say. So in general, we could say that we need to increase the amount of context you provide, increase the specificity of your request, and narrow the scope of the change. So for best output, our goal is just to have high context, high specificity, and narrow scope. Yeah. So just as an example, context like is the snippets. I know, like we have a lot of talks about context today, so I suppose there is no need to describe it deeply, but still, like context is just snippets or files from your code base you provide to like in your prompt. So specificity. Yeah, here's an example. So we can say that specificity is just how clearly defined and precise our ask is. So in the first case, it's very generic. In the second, detailed, but not too much. I mean, we are describing behavior. So we are not trying to describe the entire application. We're just trying to describe the behavior. Yeah. And lastly, we have scope. So scope is just how much we're asking the LLM to change at once. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but smaller is better. Yeah. And actually, a great question is prompting that, because just an hour ago, we like had a talk. There was a talk from Mohammed. Yeah, Mohammed is here. No? Okay. Yeah. And his talk was titled like, the prompt is dead, something like that long live the context. Yeah. So every talk has a bit of clickbait to make it like more intriguing, more interesting. But I want to emphasize again that prompts are definitely here to stay for a long time. So because let's, I don't know, just go to ChatGPT Playground. So as for example, OpenAI has rolled like an update for all prompt engineers. So now we can just polish, optimize our ChatGPT prompt like in a second. Yeah. So Microsoft has released prompt orchestration markup language to enhance LLM performance. Yeah. So as we can see in this example, it defines a role, it defines a task. For LLM includes an image and also specifies the desired output format. Yeah, so just a second. Yeah. And even if we'll go to Product Hunt, it's hard to screenshot Product Hunt, but still, we can find dozens or even like hundreds of products somehow related to prompt engineering. Even like here, Prompt Hub is our sponsor. So definitely, I think prompting still matters, and people are still doing like their best to find, manage, version, test, or deploy prompts. Yeah. It looks like I'm very embarrassed right now, so I'm going too fast. So before summarizing this talk, I would like to share this article by Chris Jombach. And initially, I wanted to include some example of developing something with prompt-driven development. But the problem is that it will take like 30 more minutes. So plus, like we recently started to use this exact template in our company. So because it fits PDD and also general instruction made for agents. So as an example of prompt-driven development practice, here's a lovely code guidelines from him. Yeah, here's a great QR code. So unfortunately, I can't share a full code on this slide. So in the upper right corner, you can find the QR code. Yeah, so what's he did? He actually created a CloudMD file that helps us to mitigate this madness of having like dozens of files for Windsurf, for Cursor, for GitHub, like for agents, for conventions, and all this stuff. Yeah, because I don't know, do you have in your projects something like that? No? Nobody? Okay, great. Yeah. So this is just a snippet of his agent guide, but the main idea here is that we ask AI to test behavior. We don't want to test implementation. We ask AI to study the project, study existing patterns. So analyze our specifications, which we will provide. And we ask it to break work from the spec like in 3 to 5 different parts and like stages, and also to document it in implementation plan. Important parts. So it's important to write a clear specification to provide the proper context. We discussed it like earlier. To document implemented features, like we are doing in this implementation plan. Yeah. So ask our agent to perform a code review or to have these elements of self-reflection, let's say, for AI agent. And lastly, just to describe our agent guidelines of TDD and PDD, like to so he can understand what is problem-solving approach in general. Yeah. And my summary, sorry, too fast, but PDD is what makes behavioral-driven development finally makes sense. It generates consensus, features are verifiable back to like requirements. Hopefully, we will trust AI more. And it's early days, so like one guy in the audience asked that today he was able like to hear six different frameworks. Yeah, so that's the 7th one. Yeah, and that's it, guys. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Vlad. I learned a lot, and yeah, I relate to many pain points you mentioned. As a developer myself and as a person who is actually helping companies to adopt AI dev tools like GitHub Copilot. This is what I do as a day job actually at Microsoft. Any questions, any reflections, comments based on what you heard? Maybe you want to share something personal related to providing context to code agents or something like that?
No questions.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Whenever I try and write something bigger than a small bit of Python in something like GitHub Copilot recently, it just gets very messy and ugly. And I've noticed in a few talks there's a bit of a pattern of talking about implementation plans and this sort of you called it PDD here. And it's I think I'm going to go back and try this, and I think there will be a lot more trust, and at least you can go back to the source, right? Whereas if you're just iterating with chat, it's a recipe for a nightmare. It was so exciting when I started with the agent in YOLO mode. I'm sure you've all been there, right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
It just goes off and it creates some stuff. It creates a whole load of modules, and then it tests something and it goes, oh, it's wrong. And it keeps on iterating. It's like magic. But then at some point, it all unravels and goes horribly wrong.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
my
fully
experience.
agree with you because it works great for big features, like big tasks, let's say. Yeah. Yeah, so definitely.
A little bit of
You don't need prompt-driven development just to fix bugs. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thanks.
There is one more question.
Thank you. That was a good talk. I was interested. I'm a marketer. I don't do the programming. I wish I did more and more. But anyways, I was very interested. Long ago, about a year and a half, people would say use the markdown kind of language and so forth compared to prompting. But when you look at what some of these AI gurus are posting on LinkedIn, nobody's using it. Do you still see a big difference when you're using Markdown, like in your global agent that you showed at the end there?
Yeah, I use exactly this one, just slightly modified.
But if you didn't use it, do you see a significant difference in the output of what's being produced?
It's hard to say because, as I told like a bit earlier, sometimes as a person I have this imposter syndrome. So yeah, I have a feeling that maybe I just can fix this bug, implement this feature, just connect Atlassian MCP, drop some description from Jira task, and that's it. So yeah, it will work. So finally, I had this A/B tests, and definitely it works. Definitely it works because in a case when, for example, our code base is very big, it's like millions of lines of code. It's tough for some tasks that are distributed between different microservices. It's super critical. Yeah, so it definitely works for tasks that are distributed between 2 or 3 repos. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, on a side note, folks, it seems like there is a renaissance of Markdown as a format. So maybe kids will start learning this at school. What's your mark for Markdown? Hash, bracket, whatever. That's for a reason, because I see Markdown as some good balance that still good readable by us humans and very good readable by the robots. So maybe it's interesting compromise. And also from my personal and like business perspective, what I see more and more, and I work with all enterprise customers in Norway, It's moving from prompt-driven development, like from it's very general, right, to
Sure.
very particular one, spec or specifications-driven development. And I heard multiple times during today already by multiple speakers about one of the concepts we also developed in Microsoft called Spec Kit. It's also like open source. It's more experiment rather than something like production ready, but it's clear that developers, instead of writing code, they now need to write specifications. And maybe it's a good move because they are getting closer to product itself, to be more like product owner, closer and closer to that.
In our company, we had a discussion who should write this type of documents: QAs, products, or developers.